After you went to bed, did you hear anything out of the ordinary at all during the night?
No.
The enduring mystery of JonBenét Ramsey. The beauty queen found murdered in her Boulder home on Christmas 1996 has finally shattered the decades of silence and speculation. The case, infamous for its staged elements and chaotic scene, felt plucked from a nightmare, leaving the world to grapple with an unsolvable crime. Yet, the story's surreal chapter of uncertainty has reportedly closed with shocking and deeply disturbing revelation. The key was buried in evidence all along, trace DNA, initially dismissed as contaminated, waiting for technology to catch up. In a supposed 2023 initiative, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, CBI, leveraging a specialized private lab, employed next-generation sequencing NGS and advanced probabilistic genotyping. This allowed them to isolate a viable male DNA profile from JonBenét's clothing, a profile never before fully analyzed. This isolated genetic blueprint was then run through public genealogical databases, mirroring the technique used to apprehend the Golden State Killer. The stunning familial hit led investigators directly to a former Boulder resident, now a man in his late 60s. He possessed a murky criminal history that had been overlooked for decades, including sealed juvenile offenses. Critically, he wasn't a total stranger. He had been a worker for a company contracted to perform minor repairs at the Ramsey residence just months before the murder. Though his identity is being withheld pending trial, multiple anonymous law enforcement sources have allegedly confirmed his irrefutable connection to the crime, setting the stage for the bombshell that followed. The true turning point in this decades-long saga was the unexpected confession from the newly identified suspect. This was not a formal police interrogation, but a recorded conversation with an undercover operative. Driven by what investigators theorized was profound narcissism or overwhelming guilt, the man had developed a warped online obsession with the case, posting under aliases and even participating in true crime forums. This fixation ultimately led to his undoing. Over a period of several months, he allegedly revealed the details of the crime to the operative, painting a chilling and explicit picture that aligned perfectly with the DNA evidence. The scenario he described was not a random break-in, but a premeditated act by a man who had stalked and watched the Ramsey family in their routines. His confession explained his entry point, the basement window, a detail initially dismissed by police. He claimed they had brought along items like duct tape, nylon cord, and a stun gun, the very tools used in the crime. His explanation for the child's death was an accidental killing during what he horrifyingly termed a kidnapping fantasy gone wrong. Furthermore, the infamous theatrical 3-page ransom note, long a focal point for theories implicating Patsy Ramsey, was also tied to the suspect. New analysis found microscopic touch DNA on the paper and adhesive strip matching his profile, confirming it was the work of a delusional outsider trying to stall and mislead, not a mother staging a cover-up. This combined breakthrough has finally brought the long-awaited exoneration for the Ramsey family, ending nearly 30 years of intense public suspicion and scrutiny. To understand the truth, we must revisit the chaotic night of December 25, 1996, inside the 7,000-square-foot Ramsey home. After returning from a holiday party, John and Patsy tucked a sleeping JonBenét into her bed. The last time they would ever see her alive. Patsy's frantic 911 call came at 5:52 a.m., triggered by finding the sprawling, bizarre ransom note on the staircase demanding $118,000, almost precisely the amount of John Ramsey's recent bonus. Already, the police response was flawed. The scene was not treated as a crime scene from the outset, allowing friends and neighbors to enter, compromising potential evidence, and plunging the investigation into immediate disarray. Key areas were unsecured, leading one officer to later describe the scene as chaos. For hours, the belief was that JonBenét was a kidnapping victim. It was not until 1 p.m., 7 hours after the initial call, that John Ramsey went into the basement's wine cellar alcove and found his daughter's body. She was wrapped in a white blanket, her hands bound, duct tape across her mouth, and a garrote made from a broken paintbrush and nylon cord around her neck. Autopsy revealed both strangulation and a skull fracture, either of which could have been fatal. While there was no sign of forced entry, a small suitcase was found oddly positioned under the broken basement window, a subtle clue that the new evidence now points to the killer's entry or exit. Other oddities, like the bowl of pineapple found in the kitchen, ingested by JonBenét shortly before her death, still linger. However, with the DNA and confession, the chaotic basement scene is now understood as a genuine crime scene, not a manufactured one, revealing the horrific reality of the outsider's intrusion. From the moment the JonBenét case hit the news, it became a national obsession fueled by suspicion. The pageant photos, the family's wealth, and the bizarre ransom note provided the perfect cocktail for a media frenzy that immediately turned inward, focusing relentlessly on the Ramseys. The police's initial statement of no signs of forced entry immediately fostered the theory of an inside job. Patsy Ramsey became the primary target, her 911 call scrutinized, her handwriting debated, and her public composure criticized. Linguistic analysis of the ransom note, with its theatrical tone and specific reference to John Ramsey's bonus, led many, including experts, to firmly believe she was the author, solidifying the public's conviction that Mom did it. Suspicion also fell heavily on JonBenét's 9-year-old brother, Burke Ramsey. Theories, particularly one alleging he accidentally struck his sister over a piece of pineapple, leading to a parental cover-up, gained enormous traction in true crime circles and documentaries. A 2016 CBS special amplified this theory, resulting in a multi-million-dollar defamation lawsuit by Burke that was settled out of court. Beyond the family, there was a procession of false leads, including the infamous John Mark Carr, who confessed in 2006 but whose DNA did not match the crime scene evidence. Other outsiders, from a former housekeeper to a local Santa, were all dragged through the mud and cleared. The constant tabloid pushing of conspiracy theories, coupled with the internet's endless investigation, turned the family's tragedy into spectacle. Looking back, it is staggering that the public focused almost entirely on the victim's family, while the true perpetrator, hiding in plain sight and now identified by DNA, was never on anyone's radar. The true identity of the killer, a now retired handyman and security contractor who lived an outwardly normal life with a wife and children, exposes the chilling reality of a compartmentalized predator. His confession, described as cold and detached, lacked remorse, instead conveying a bizarre sense of pride in his ability to evade justice for so long. Though he had no active warrants, a deeper dive into his history uncovered a disturbing pattern. Allegations of inappropriate conduct with minors, sealed juvenile records, and an earlier unprosecuted incident involving a young girl. The signs were tragically there, but ignored. Psychologists examining the case file and confession footage describe him as a textbook predator, able to seamlessly switch between his ordinary public persona and his deeply deviant private fantasies. This was not a spontaneous act, but a calculated, premeditated crime. The killer admitted to watching the Ramsey house for weeks, meticulously tracking their routines and waiting for his moment. His fixation, allegedly stemming from seeing JonBenét at a local event, turned the child into an object of possession in his mind. He brought a kit, cord, duct tape, stun gun, and a pre-written ransom note, a deliberate theatrical performance designed to create a puzzle and lead the police nowhere. This level of fantasy-driven crime, especially involving a child, is indicative of profound narcissism and sexual deviance. Authorities are now urgently re-examining other regional cold cases with similar characteristics, fearing that JonBenét was not his only victim. The most profound psychological horror lies not just in the murder itself, but in the years of silence where he allowed the Ramsey family to be utterly destroyed in the court of public opinion, a silent form of psychological torture he inflicted without ever lifting a finger after that night. The identification and alleged confession of JonBenét Ramsey's killer should, by all accounts, be the definitive end to a near 3-decade nightmare. The suspect has been unmasked, the DNA evidence has spoken, and the Ramsey family has been exonerated. Yet, even this monumental breakthrough does not bring simple closure. As of the time of this purported discovery, official charges have not yet been filed. Legal sources suggest a delay as the district attorney prepares a formal indictment, possibly due to jurisdictional complexities or the ongoing investigation into potential earlier or later victims of the perpetrator. The knowledge of the killer's identity, coupled with his temporary freedom under surveillance, complicates the notion of immediate justice. For the Ramseys, the emotional fallout is complex, relief mixed with utter devastation. Their legal team is reportedly contemplating defamation suits against media outlets and former investigators who fiercely promoted false theories, particularly those that implicated Burke Ramsey. For years, the family was publicly condemned. Their private grief turned into a national public spectacle. This lack of justice for the family, who were vilified while the killer lived an untouched life, is the painful core of the case's final chapter. While we finally know who committed the murder, the nearly 30 years of misdirected blame and public cruelty against an innocent family cannot be undone. Justice may be arriving late, a testament to progress of forensic technology, but the dramatic courtroom scene and satisfying resolution so often desired in true crime narratives are still pending. The truth is out, but the cost of the Ramsey family and the nation's collective conscience remains incalculable.